D23, I think one of the biggest announcements
Is
was
Kingdom Hearts the anime series a great? Oh,
yes, not
Yeah,
the
of
X-Men,
course.
this Kingdom of Hearts, which is the X-Men, which is a very, very God, is a very large cast. But Sadie Sink as Jean Grey, Brandon, we've already touched on her. Do you feel like Sadie Sink as Jean Grey is somebody that you can build an X-Men franchise around?
Hopefully. Obviously we know that after Secret Wars there's gonna be a little softy reboot kind of vibes. So is this gonna be the same Jean Grey that we've just seen in Brand New Day? Quite possibly not. It might be a completely different version of the character. The cast in general, the one I'm most excited for is Savannah, whose second name escapes me, playing Emma Frost because she's perfect.
Samara Weaving, yeah, she's
So on it.
brilliant.
And
Yeah.
also, and I need to be a lot better with the names of people, but
So me
look,
and Spencer were talking about this beforehand, and I was like, I'm gonna get everyone's name wrong in this cast. Like,
I haven't
so
written
bad.
any of these names down. I should have them in front of me, so I apologize to the actors here and now. But the girl playing Storm, I think it's fantastic that I don't know who she is. She's a Broadway
Maya
actor
Boyd, yeah.
and everything,
Yeah.
and she, from what people are saying online, she's a fantastic Broadway stage actor and very good, very dramatic and very like clear performance when she's on stage, which is exactly what Storm needs. You know, I need to see Master of the Elements vibes. I want my pure this queen could take anyone down in seconds. I do worry the rest of the casting is slightly what we've been talking about quite a bit on here. Is just a lot of famous people that I'm like, why?
So we've got Kit Connors as Cyclops,
Mm.
Christopher Abbott as Professor Sex, Professor X. It's been a long day. It's a very different version of Charles Xavier. Professor X, Maya Boyd as Storm, Indy
Navarrete? Is it Navarrete?
The actress from Obsession is playing
Yeah.
Rogue. Samara Weaving as Emma Frost, and Adam Driver as Mr. Sinister, which is obviously he did the old fake out thing, being like, "Oh, I'm playing Magneto," and everyone got so excited. And then he said, Mr. Sinister's real name, and half the crowd there you could tell didn't actually know who. Yeah, they were just like,
was.
"Oh, right, okay." But I think
Yeah.
some of the cast is pretty good. I think Chris Abbott is very different from Patrick Stewart, and I think that's what Marvel needs right now. But do you think this is a bit of a slap in the face because they're telling us get excited about Avengers Doomsday? We have the X-Men. Then 2 minutes later, they're like, "Here's your new X-Men."
X-Men.
Yeah, do you think that's just a bit? Do you think they just should have held off till after Doomsday and announced this next year instead of just doing it before we have the swan song to Ian McKellen and Patrick Stewart? Or do you think no, this is the perfect time they should have just held up for this, Brandon?
Yeah, I think it is a little bit. I think again, it's that thing we're talking about, the casual viewer. The casual viewer is about to go into this film having seen probably all the other X-Men films as they were growing up or like at points in life, to then be like, oh, it's Ian McKellen, Patrick Stewart, it's thingy, and then suddenly go, these are new ones. I went, so not the new ones I already had. No, not them ones. These are new ones. And like, okay. And are we going to see these at all in it says 2028, so are we going to see them in Secret Wars? We're going to get something from this.
Yeah.
It's a bit of a. I think you're right. I think they should have revealed this next year. I think this is let your new universe be done and let's start revealing stuff for our next slate later on. I think it's jumping the gun a little bit on, but New Year is coming, so you can be excited for that if this doesn't go well.
So we've got Mr. Sinister, we've got Adam Driver in, bless him. I don't know what he's done to end up in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. He's an actor. Like, what are you doing? But, fair play to him. But yeah, he announced himself as Magneto first of all, and then didn't. But we've got Charles Xavier. So do we need Magneto in this first film at all, Spencer, do you think?
Well, I mean, it depends on which direction they go in, because I think that if we're entering X-Men into into a different time period, then to kind of cover Magneto's origin story during the
Yes, it's-
Holocaust wouldn't quite add up. So I think that perhaps it makes sense to maybe hold off of like revealing Magneto maybe in the first film, and even so forth. It would really be hard for anyone to step into the shoes of Hugh Jackman for Wolverine. So maybe some of these characters it's better to hold off from revealing. But I think that I think personally, yes, I do agree with both of you that I think it would have been best to hold off from revealing this, so we could have just had that time to just really just enjoy like where Patrick Stewart and Ian McKellen's respective Xavier and Magneto storylines were going to go, without the prior information of, oh yeah, a whole new X-Men are going to take over afterwards, so you don't even need to miss them. It's a bit like, really? Like, I mean, it's cool. I mean, the casting decision is great. I mean, I love the idea, Samara Weaving as Emma Frost. That's like 100% perfect. I love that. And I think Jake Schreier, I hope I'm pronouncing his name right. I mean, I thought he did an amazing job with Thunderbolts, to be honest. It really injected some new blood back into the MCU, got me a bit more excited. And, a lot of those like fight sequences were done like in camera. So all great stuff. So I'm sure he's going to do a great job. But yeah, in terms of the casting, really, I think there's no one there that makes me think like, oh, this was a terrible choice. It's just a bit like, maybe it was just a bit early. Maybe we could have just held off. Let people, just take a chill pill, as one would say. Just chill, and
Yeah.
let's just enjoy, one or two movies at a time, instead of just prior knowledge as to what's happening in the next 2-3 years.
So, who do you think then, Spence? Do you think who would become the breakout character of the new X-Men? Because we've
The
had
new
Hugh Jackman. Who do you think out of these has the potential to be like, right, okay, that's the breakout?
I reckon they're going to go in the opposite direction, where Wolverine was very much the titular character of the original X-Men series. I wouldn't be surprised if they put all the focus on Cyclops. So perhaps,
Agreed.
Yeah.
show some love back to Scott Summers. So I
Yeah.
think that he will definitely, well, not definitely, but I think he could potentially be the actual leader that Cyclops is always meant to be of the X-Men.
So, do you think the films then, the previous ones of the Fox ones, have consistently failed Cyclops because Wolverine was just easier to market? Brandon.
A little bit, yeah.
Yeah.
Like, if I'm completely honest, the X-Men are the most interesting characters Marvel have got next to Spider-Man. They've got the most interesting villains. They're an allegory for every minority in the world ever. It amazes me that if the X-Men were real, we would absolutely still live in the world that they do, where the Avengers save people and people go, "Hey!" The X-Men save people and they go, "Oh yeah, but like they're different." I'm like, they still save people. I'm like, yeah, but like they're not like us, though, are they? I'm like, oh right, okay. I think there's a lot of story power and telling in these characters, and the main part of the X-Men is the fact they are a team, and I think that Cyclops absolutely should be its leader. I think the Wolverine thing, it ended up becoming a big part of the comics, where it sort of became he became a main character there too, but Cyclops has got so many interesting things, and especially they're doing this film with Jean and Emma, who are both love interests of Scott at certain points in his life. So I wonder if they will go down that route ever so slightly. Although obviously, uh, Jean's a lot younger in this version than we've seen ever really before.
Mm.
Even in the Days of Future Past and Apocalypse and stuff, we don't talk about it. Thingy, what's her name?
Sansa Stark.
I didn't want to call her Sansa Stark, but that's who
Sansa
I mean.
Stark. I'm so sorry. Yeah. Sophie Turner.
Sophie Turner.
Thank
Sophie
you.
Turner. There we go.
Yeah.
We got there in the end.
In front of him, I'm a bad presenter.
That's fine.
But she still had a bit of older edge to her when playing the role. I'd be interested to see how more closer to the comic book characters these will go to, because I do think they're some of the best ones that exist, with some fantastic storylines, and I really, really want to see them reach those heights. if you give me just an X-Men load of franchise of films without touching MCU, I'd be happy. Wouldn't bother me. X-Men 97 is incredible.
So, should the new X-Men actually begin as students rather than established superheroes then? Because we've already got Jean Grey is kind of finding herself and finding her powers. But does that kind of trample on then First Class and those films? Because we've kind of already seen them all just come up, Spencer. Do you think we've already we're kind of retreading the same ground that we've already covered in the Fox films?
I mean, I'll go out and say that, X-Men First Class is actually my favorite X-Men film. I absolutely love that film so much. So, I mean, if there was ever a film to even come close to, reaching those heights for me, if they were able to pull that off with this one, I mean, I think given the cast that we've got here, having them be students would make sense because we are dealing with a much, younger cast. I mean, literally Xavier is literally, I mean, the actor
Yeah.
is 40, but I mean, he could very much easily, be classed as 30 to 35. So, I
Thanks.
mean, yeah, yeah, thanks to all of us, yeah, all of us here. But yeah, I think that with this film in particular, if they do end up going in that direction, I think it definitely it definitely allows us to the characters to grow with us. So yeah, I guess we'll just have to wait and see.
So there's rumblings of a casting for Magneto, and yeah, it's kind of hitting the lines now because he has been in a Marvel property before. He's also been in DC quite a
Oh,
substantial amount.
is this the I have heard this actually.
It
Yes.
is Mr. Henry Cavill is allegedly
Cavalrine is back.
the Cavalrine is back, where
Wolverine.
he's becoming
Cavalrine.
Magneto. So
Okay.
yeah, this is a bit. I'd be well up for this. I'm not gonna lie. This is the one.
I quite a good Magneto actually. I think he would understand the trials and tribulations that Eric has been through, and I think he'd pull it off really well.
Yeah.
Compared to most of the ones, like I say, I have a big issue with seeing big names come into things, being like, could we have looked further afield, guys? Could we have given someone their big chance? But I think he's been let down by so many superhero things recently, and so many passion projects he's had. Why not? Let's give Henry a proper chance. It's better than doing a Nola Holmes 4.
You didn't work on Enola Holmes, did you, Spencer?
No, I didn't. No, I didn't. But to be fair, even if I did, I wouldn't have taken offense to that at all.
There you go.
But
But
I think, yeah. Sorry, carry on.
no, I was gonna say, but we've already got him in Deadpool and Wolverine as the Cavalrine. Would you want him to come in as Magneto, or would you want him to come in as the Cavalrine? Or considering the age of the cast, could you? It's such a
No,
weird one.
if we're getting Wolverine, I want comic book accurate. I want 5'1", little short, stouty. I know loads of short boys who are built like brick shit houses. We don't need to have these tall, stunning, gorgeous looks. I'm sorry, but in the comics, Wolverine is not this stunning, beautiful man. He's a feral beast. That the reason women go to him is because he's a feral beast.
Yeah.
That's the one.
So would you accept Henry Cavill as Magneto? Is this one that you'd be like, right, okay, cool, I'm in with this? Spencer, are you happy with this?
Yeah, I'd be genuinely excited for sure. I think Henry Cavill has just shown. I mean, even in if we go to the other side of Marvel, if we go straight to DC, I think Henry Cavill worked really well as Superman when he was evil Superman. I mean, he just really kind of he has that quality to play really good antagonists. So I think to put him in a role like Magneto, which carries so much there's so many dynamics to that character and so much aura and so much there's just a huge storyline there that I think Henry Cavill would just like really fit quite well with that. So yeah, I'd be more than up for him to play Magneto.
I think we touched on this off camera and you brought it up as well. I think the only issue with this is, and this new X-Men universe as well, because obviously it's set now 2026, 27, 28, whatever the MCU's time jump to. that their backstories is going to have to change because Henry Cavill, Magneto is a survivor of the Holocaust, and obviously Henry Cavill is not 1895, 100. So I'm quite interested to see how they're gonna. Are they going to do a time travel thing? Are they going to be like, oh, well, the X-Men were in hibernation the entire time?
I mean,
Like
the
what?
X-Men are known to get up to time travel antics, so it wouldn't be
Yeah,
out
it's
of
like
character.
how are they gonna work this? But another thing that Kevin Feige said uh, at D23 is potentially they tells us exactly what Marvel's plan is after Secret Wars. That despite more than 25 years of X-Men films already existing, Feige argued that the comics contain enough material for another 100 great X-Men movies, describing as sagas upon sagas of stories waiting to be explored. So my immediate question is, do we want another 100 X-Men movies from the MCU?
I hate to say it, but yeah. Like, I don't know. The X-Men are just so interesting. You take Avengers versus X-Men, X-Men versus the Eternals, the all-new
Let
X-Men run, Grant Morrison's run, Genosha. Um, you take Onslaught, Apocalypse, and Mr. Sinister. They have some cracking storylines. Goblin Queen with Madeline Pryor. Like, there's so many things you can do with these that, I mean, it was so clear that the only reason we even got an Eternals film was because they didn't have the rights to the X-Men. They wanted something. And then when they got it, they dropped them like a sack of spuds. Um, God love them. But the X-Men have so much storytelling and power and star power and interesting characters. I'm ready to throw my hat in the ring for Iceman any day now. Like, I don't bother. I'm here for it. As I'm an actual queer person, why not? But like, there's so much to be told, and I think if they draw upon things, X-Men are in space, they're in time, they're always doing something that, you look at those other heroes such as Iron Man and Captain America, who the MCU kind of made big of. Those characters weren't huge at the time in comics, not whatsoever. But the X-Men have always been big. There's never been a run where they haven't been big. If we hit the Krakoa era one day, I'll scream because I'll be like, "Wow, we have come so far with these comics and these storylines. To see that put on screen would be incredible."
So, do you think that the Fox X, what we've had so far on screen, has actually covered surprisingly little of the X-Men comics, like X-Force, New Mutants, Excalibur, Genosha, Hellfire? Do you think like Marvel has got a lot of stuff that they can plow into for the next 10, 20, 30 years, Brandon?
Big time, big time.
Yeah.
For all the ones you've just said, we've not seen X-Force really. We've not seen Hellfire Gala. We've not seen Sebastian Stan. Emma Frost has never really shone once, and she's got so many great storylines. Excalibur. If you give me Captain Britain with Betsy, I'll be here for it. You give me Psylocke. There are thousands upon thousands of mutants, and some of them only appear in backgrounds and get like one series. Do you take small ones like Jubilee wasn't a big thing till the TV series. You take Boom Boom. You take Nightcrawler. Yes, he's big-ish now because of the series, but like he doesn't get a lot of stuff in comics all the time. There are so many storylines and so many ways these characters can go, but because they do speak for minorities and they do have so many things that people love an underdog, and the X-Men are the ultimate underdog team. So I think they actually have the ability to go really far with it. And I wonder if we could hit a point where the X-Men, we all thought Spider-Man was going to be our central point for the MCU after Endgame, but I think the X-Men are now going to be it, and that's going to be our sort of clinching point until they start killing them all off, and we all just have to go, "Oh, right, okay."
So, what should the first X-Men saga actually be then? If this is the introduction to the MCU, what do you think, Spencer? What do you think the X-Men should deal with first? That first saga, if you have to adapt something.
I mean, I would have said can we at least get the Dark Phoenix storyline done right? But do you know what? We've done it a couple of times now. I think we're ready to kind of like have a break from that. And I think what was interesting with not to segue off too much, but I think what was interesting about Spider-Man Brand New Day was I mean, I think most of us kind of saw it coming that Sadie Sink's character was going to be Jean Grey. There were some people talking maybe it was Rachel Summers or other characters that were sort of like hinted at. But I think what was interesting with this version of Jean Grey was the fact that she very much was riding that line between Jean Grey, but then also like showing some of the Dark Phoenix aspects of her. But like, there was a bit more of a grey area instead of like just, from one end of the spectrum to the other. So I thought that was really, I thought that was handled quite nicely actually. But in terms of what the first era or the first saga of the X-Men films, I think Brandon listed off that there's just so many storylines that they could go down. And I think there was even one point where, even just touching upon like X-Men and Spider-Man, I think there was one point where the X-Men comics were outpacing the Spider-Man comics because they'd become so popular. So I think, if I was to say what I think they should do first with the X-Men films, I think, it all comes down to just, focusing on the core characters. I think if we're going to go into, Cyclops being perhaps, the main focal point of the film, I think we should definitely lean into that and like build around that. And whatever, as Feige said, there's, so many storylines that they could tackle, then, the storyline can just fit into where they want to go first.
So do you think that Marvel can make X-Men films and mutant films for the next 10 years without needing the Avengers at all, Brandon?
Yeah, I do
Yeah.
actually.
I don't know.
There's so much in the draw. You take Age of Apocalypse, that's 2 films in itself. You take Genosha, that's a film in itself. There are so many things, and even that with the fact they announced Mr. Sinister, I thought was quite interesting. Because it was like, okay, so we're going to go down the genetics thing quite quickly, and also how quickly are they then going to reach into spoilers for anyone that's not read a comic in the past 30 years? No offense, but how quickly are we going to hit into the fact that Mr. Sinister is one of the reasons that we get Madeline Pryor and she has a child and creates Cable, and Scott and Jean, how they deal with that. Like, there's so many things, and I think that's one thing where it comes to it is the MCU films sometimes feel really big and very superhero-y. Don't get me wrong, they're superhero films, but I think that when it comes to that, there with these guys, they've got heart, and that's what's most important.
So do you think Wolverine should be kept as far away as possible for the foreseeable and just let the other characters crack on, and then we bring him in like 3-5 years down the line? Or do you think, right, no, actually we do need a Wolverine now?
I think they should, I think we're very attached to, I think as a whole, I think a lot of people are, maybe Brandon might disagree with this, but a lot of people are really attached to Hugh Jackman as Wolverine just because of, he's kind of maybe not become the comic book accurate version of that character, but he has become that character to a lot of mainstream audiences. So he's embodied a version of that character that so many people are familiar with. So I think that it would be worth just, taking, a breather from certain characters and then just being able to apply focus to some which maybe weren't as well represented in the Fox films, or maybe didn't get their chance to really shine. So yeah, I would say it would definitely be worth it. And plus, it seems clear that Hugh Jackman's going to be Wolverine till he's 90, at least the version of him.
Literally.
My headphones decided to do an absolute madness and disconnect then. So I'm going to pretend I heard everything you said there, and I completely agree with you, Spencer.
Oh, thanks.
I
Luke.
thought what you said was brilliant, and I completely heard everything. So there is one more bit of stunt casting that has kind of leaked, but kind of not, and he is heavily rumored, and the fact that Henry Cavill is kind of rumored as well kind of links it, because as far as I'm aware, they used to have the same agent, but someone is rumored to play Apocalypse in the MCU, and it is none other than Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson.
No.
The hierarchy of power in the MCU has changed, and yeah, I mean, him and Henry Cavill share the same agent, so it kind of makes sense if he's coming in and they're doing Apocalypse first, I guess. I don't know, but that is another one that seems to be doing the rounds.